How would you like the opportunity to catch 10, 15, maybe even more billfish in a single day? We're talking big Pacific sailfish and 3 varieties of marlin, blue, black, and striped. It is possible right here along the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. What about battling the silver king, tarpon, and lunker snook on the east coast of Costa Rica? You can fight them till your arms feel like lead. Not convinced? Well, stay with this video and you might be scrambling to make reservations. This is Fish Costa Rica. We'll get back to the fishing action momentarily. Costa Rica is located in Central America, bordered on the north by Nicaragua and Panama to the south. Those names may make you a little nervous, but rest assured, Costa Rica is an island of tranquility in what has been a troubled and volatile region. Consider these factors. Costa Rica claims more than 100 years of democracy. It has no army. The government is committed to preserving the rainforests and other natural resources, and thousands of Americans have chosen Costa Rica as their retirement paradise. Getting to Costa Rica is fairly easy. Juan Santa Maria Airport in the capital of San Jose is served by several airlines, including American, Mexicana, and LAXA, Costa Rica's national airline. Flying time from Miami is about 2 hours 20 minutes, slightly longer from California. Either before or after your fishing adventure, you might want to spend some time exploring. San Jose has some fine hotels. The Holiday Inn is right downtown. We would also recommend the San Jose Palacio on the outskirts of the city, with its rosewood finished rooms, fine dining, night spots, and convention center. And midway between the airport and the city, the Herradura, another modern facility which also includes a casino. Yes, there are casinos throughout San Jose. Just be careful you don't blow the fishing money. Downtown San Jose can easily be explored on foot. In fact, it's preferable since traffic can be fierce and parking hard to find if you're driving a rental vehicle. There are shops or tiendas to be explored throughout the city. You'll be warmly greeted, but your American dollars won't be accepted. The currency of Costa Rica is the colon, and dollars can be changed into colones at the airport, your hotel, or a bank. Colones, tiendas, yes, the language here is Spanish. But you can usually find someone who speaks at least some English, and the Costa Rican natives or ticos are usually helpful. There are all sorts of restaurants in San Jose, some with familiar names, and if your waiter doesn't speak English, someone at the next table might, or you can resort to pointing out your choice on the menu. One way to get the real flavor of the city is to visit one of the many parks or plazas, which are usually filled with people, vendors, artists, and street performers. The Gold Museum is located right under this plaza. And just a few blocks away, Costa Rica's National Museum, where you can get a feel for Costa Rica's heritage and view priceless pre-Columbian artifacts and jewelry. Okay, it's time to go fishing, so let's head for the Pacific. You can take a bus, a charter flight, the domestic airline, Sansa, or do as we did, drive. We should warn you, the drive from San Jose to our destination on the northwest Pacific coast takes at least 5 hours. But it is an interesting drive on the Pan American Highway, which, for the most part, is in decent shape. If you start out before 6 a.m., you'll probably have to grab coffee and breakfast later, on the road. Black beans and rice is probably not your normal breakfast fare. Hey, be adventurous, you might like it. As you wind through coffee-growing regions and cattle ranches, you'll see some unusual sights like oxen pulling a carreta, a two-wheel cart. The carreta is so much a part of Costa Rican history that you'll find them used for decoration and souvenirs everywhere. You'll be crossing a lot of rivers, some of them pretty wild, and if you're up for some whitewater rafting, Costa Rica has some of the best. More than 25% of Costa Rican land is under government protection in national parks and preserves, and that includes large portions of the famed rainforests. These places make great side trips. They're easy to find. Just pick up a guidebook and watch for the signs along the highways. Finally, we arrive at our destination, the Playa Flamingo Hotel, our fishing headquarters for the next few days. It is a comfortable place right on the Pacific. The hotel has 2 restaurants, facilities for booking tours, dive trips, fishing, and airline reservations. And after a hot day on the Pacific, the pool with its waterside seating is especially refreshing. The Flamingo Marina with its small fleet of charter boats is just a short walk from the hotel. The marina in the spring of 1991 was still primitive but under construction and improving all the time. For our billfish adventure, we chose the Magic, a 32-foot fiberglass sport fisherman skippered by Captain Brendan Burke. Think this guy knows where the billfish are? In the first 5 months of 1991, anglers aboard the Magic hooked and released 800 billfish, more than any other charter boat in the world. And by the end of the year, had set a world record of 1,441 billfish caught. Captain Burke is intense, competitive, and doesn't know when to quit. So be prepared to be on the dock at 6 a.m. and stay at sea until the sun is on the horizon. On our first morning out on the Magic, we headed north across the Golfo de Papagayo for Bad Islands, a series of rocks that jut out of the sea. We could troll within about 20 yards of the craggy shorelines over a deep reef loaded with bait fish that attract the big ones. It wasn't long before producer Gordon Stevens was hooked up with a Pacific sailfish, his first sail ever.
Get reeling, stay on him, Gordon. Don't horse him. Hold him, you got him. Take his head up.
Right in front of us. Oh, there he goes. Not again. He's a pretty one, too. Boy, I'll tell you, you get one of these big old sails on the line, your arms wind up aching. But what the heck?
Yeah, you see his tail at the way that. There he is.
It's good, right here.
You see the yellow?
Got his tail right here. Tail?
Okay, got him. Right on.
Oh, look at the blister. Wore a little skin off, but what the heck?
And that was just the start of an adventure that would see even more sailfish, all of them about 100 pounds, being caught and released. By the way, if you fish with Captain Burke or any of the other skippers on Costa Rica's Pacific coast, don't expect to take your billfish back to the dock for mounting. It won't even be hauled into the boat for picture taking. Burke and the captains are into conservation, and they've seen how fish populations have been depleted elsewhere.
We release all billfish with the possible exception of a world record fish. And the only fish that was killed on the Magic in last year was the Pacific world record on 2-pound test, 103-pound fish. It was caught by Riley Working. And that was the only fish that died on this boat. All of the fish, if they look a little weak, we spend great care in reviving them at the side of the boat to ensure their safe rehabilitation.
You don't encourage mounting?
Not at all.
A few words about the boat. The Magic is a comfortable 32-footer with powerful twin diesels that will get you to the fishing areas in a hurry. The Magic is roomy enough for 4 or 5 people to fish in comfort. Keep in mind, though, that this boat and most others in the region are serious fishing machines. That means no air-conditioned cabins with televisions and ice cream makers. If you want to lounge around, stay in your hotel room. Our mate, Eduardo, is one of the most conscientious we've encountered, constantly checking equipment and baits as well as watching for fish in the Magic's wake and preparing lunch for the anglers. For bait, we trolled ballyhoo. The cooler full had been rigged long before we left the dock. Ballyhoo are not native to these waters. They have to be imported from Florida, but they have proven to be the best bait for attracting Pacific billfish. Most of the time, we trolled 2 lines from the outriggers and 2 flat lines, as well as a skirted teaser from each side of the boat. And every once in a while, Captain Burke would toss out a 3rd teaser, a weighted mullet. In these fish-infested waters, it's rare to troll more than 5 or 10 minutes without a call to action.
Lock it up! Lock it up! You gotta wind! You gotta wind!
This is where Burke becomes the director. The angler, who's next up, grabs the designated rod and follows instructions from the skipper, who has the best view of what the fish is doing.
No! No! Eduardo! Get
If the fish is following a teaser, the ballyhoo has to be positioned so the sail or marlin can see it and transfer to the reel bait. Once the fish strikes the reel bait, Captain Burke starts yelling, "Beat him! Beat him!" That means the angler puts his reel in free spool, allowing the bait to drop back as though stunned. When Burke yells, "Strike him," it means the fish has the bait and the battle is on.
Well, more than it now. There he is. All right. See him there? Yeah. Come up. Oh, she threw it. Like this. Coming up again. All right. Woo!
Billfish in general, and sailfish in particular, are performers. Spectacular leaps, tail walks, skipjack-like surges across the surface are all part of the repertoire of a hooked billfish. Most of the sailfish our party released were in the 100-pound range and took 15 to 20 minutes to subdue. But hook up with a giant 200-pounder on 10-pound line, and you're going to be occupied for a long time. If you haven't already gotten the idea that Playa Flamingo, Costa Rica is sailfish heaven, consider this. In the May 1991 International Sailfish Tournament, 120 anglers released 1,691 sails in just 4 days. That averages out to an unbelievable 14 sailfish per angler. With so many billfish being released here, it seems this could remain a rich fishing ground for years to come. But the longliners are moving in. These commercial fishermen put out miles of baited hooks, mainly for swordfish, but they kill sailfish, turtles, and other species as well.
Their targeted species is the swordfish. And that's what they tell the government, that they're after swordfish. And they do catch swordfish. But the incidental catch of sailfish, which they happen to take here in Costa Rica, is a great number of fish. And it's just a matter of time before the excellent resource of the sailfish is depleted, like everything else. And I would think within 4 or 5 years, unless something is done immediately, Costa Rica is going to have a problem with its tourism, because people are here, a great deal of people spend a lot of money coming to Costa Rica to fish. It's sailfish-rich waters, and without the sailfish, they'll notice a very severe decline in their hotels being filled, their restaurants. It'll just filter through the whole thing. Loxa Airlines, the entire economic structure of their tourism is going to be very affected very quickly.
But for now, the waters off the west coast of Costa Rica remain one of the world's best sailfish destinations. Here's another one now.
Okay, let it go. All right, Dale. A beauty.
I got it. Oh, Jesus, look at it. Okay. I want you to wind as fast as you can. Gotta get a picture. You get off, Edwater? Yep, he's off.
Our party was quite the lively group. There was Home Shopping Network executive Jimmy Goodman, who hadn't been up so early since 1967. And Lakeland, Florida lawyer Dale Jacobs, who alternated between napping, reading, and catching fish. Dale had such a battle with one sailfish that he popped a hernia. Really. Then there was the head man of International Video Projects, who had a stomach malady that would have him doing the quick step for another 2 weeks. He didn't miss a turn with the rod, though. Fair-skinned cameraman Pat Lynch grew redder and redder. But he got the shots and the fish. And me, Stevens, whom you met earlier. Since I write and narrate, I got to put my fish in first. In a day and a half of fishing, this august group raised about 25 fish, including a couple of marlin, which chose not to bite. We hooked up with about 15 big sails, and we brought 10 of them to the boat. And when we encountered other fishing boats, they were often hooked up with billfish as well. In spite of all the action, Captain Burke wound up apologizing for the lack of fish. He thought we'd had a couple of off days. Go figure. Hey, we're from Florida, where many offshore anglers spend years looking for billfish action like this.
One right behind the boat. Look at it. Look at it. Look. Okay.
Come on.
Take it up further.
You.
Take it. Shit. Bait right there. Okay, hold the bait right there. Hold it. Stop it. Lock it up. One. There you go. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Gorgeous colors.
Look at this! Jeez!
This is a dancer, man.
And we haven't even mentioned some of the other game fish readily available here. Amberjack, dorado or dolphin, roosterfish, wahoo. If you can get your skipper to ignore the billfish for a little while. We'll say this for Captain Burke. He wore some of us out, enough to grab a good nap on the way back to the dock. Next morning it was time to leave, and we decided to forego the long drive in favor of a chartered flight back to San Jose. The pilot cast some nervous glances at our pile of camera equipment and luggage on the deserted ramp at an airstrip near Tamarindo. We were close to the weight limit, but we got into the air without any problem. And in just over an hour, we were back in San Jose for an overnight at the Herradura before returning to Miami. 2 months later, we were back in Costa Rica, this time headed for the East Coast and a completely different fishing adventure at a place called Isla de Pesca. Getting there was a big part of the adventure. Our group and a half dozen tourists headed north out of San Jose on a small bus. We passed through picturesque coffee and flower growing regions. In recent years, fresh flowers had become an important Costa Rican export. This trip also included a stop for Desayuno Típico de Costa Rica, a typical country breakfast of black beans and rice, eggs, tortillas, and wonderful homegrown coffee. Back on the road, we soon passed near the famed Poas volcano and stopped at the La Paz waterfall in the foothills leading to the volcano, which is still active. A few more minutes on the bus and we reached the end of the line, at least for typical ground transport. At a place called Puerto Viejo, we board a boat for the remainder of the journey. There are no roads leading to Isla de Pesca. We head up the Rio Sarapiquí, swollen and fast-moving because of recent rains in the mountains. The river is the lifeline of the ranchers, hunters, and fishermen who live along its banks. After cruising north for a while, we turn east on the Rio San Juan, which forms the border between Costa Rica and Nicaragua in this region. And finally, we reach the Rio Colorado for the final leg of this 3.5-hour trip. We were all getting pretty antsy from all the cruising and no fishing when the Isla de Pesca finally came into view. The camp is located on the Rio Colorado in the northeastern corner of Costa Rica, just a few miles from Nicaragua and just upstream from the Caribbean. The camp is made up of a group of cabins, rustic but not uncomfortable, a building housing a bar and lounge, and a restaurant tackle shop building. There's a town just down the river, and the only way to get there is by boat. After dinner and a good night's sleep, we were ready to tango with the giant snook and tarpon we'd heard so much about. In peak season, fish can be found just minutes away from the camp in the rivers and estuaries and downstream off the Caribbean beaches. Whether you bring your own tackle, which is preferable, or use the camp's equipment, don't expect to fish with live bait. The guides here just don't bother with it. Trolling and casting artificial lures are the ways to catch fish here. The skiff with Dave and Dale ventured into the Caribbean where tarpon were rolling just off the beach. Dale was soon hooked up with a big tarpon which took him nearly a half hour to whip. Quite an accomplishment since Dale was still recovering from that sailfish hernia of a few weeks before. When the tarpon was alongside the boat, the guide estimated its weight at about 80 pounds. And that fish was small by the standards of the region where 150-pounders are common, and some lucky anglers tangle with fish up to 200 pounds. Generally speaking, tarpon are available throughout the year. In rainy season, when the rivers are high and muddy, the Silver Kings will be just offshore. The guides at Isla de Pesca, Silver King Lodge, and other camps know how to find them and how to catch them, even if it means making a 2-hour run into Nicaragua in search of better water conditions. In order to fish there, you'll have to stop at a Nicaraguan village and buy a license. They only cost about $10 each, the money sometimes being used to help rebuild facilities destroyed in Sandinista bombings. It's probably a good thing there isn't much nightlife in this remote camp. After being on the water and fighting fish from daybreak to sundown, most anglers just want to eat, tell a few lies, and hit the sack. And speaking of eating, the food at the fishing camps is generally pretty darn good. Start the day with a hearty breakfast with several choices, end it with a substantial dinner which might include lobster, snook fillets, or steak. While tarpon are generally plentiful in this region, snook may not be. They are more elusive and tougher to attract to the baits. For example, our party raised just one, and it was just a baby. But if you hit the right conditions with the right bait, you might bring back a trophy. About a week after we left Costa Rica, George Beck of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, caught the mother of all lunker snook, a world record at 57 pounds 12 ounces, and he caught it on the west coast of Costa Rica. Incidentally, while most people come to this region for the fishing, there are nature tours that operate out of some of the fish camps. One of them takes visitors to a place called Tortuguero, a national park several miles south of Isla de Pesca on the Caribbean coast. This is a place where giant sea turtles lumber out of the surf to lay their eggs in the sand. It is where naturalists come to pursue their studies of the gentle giants. This is a night trip since turtles only lay their eggs at night. Just going fishing in this unspoiled region is part nature tour. Most of the rivers are bordered by dense jungle, It's not unusual to spot howler monkeys in the trees, big caimans sunning on the banks, and unusual species of trees, plants, and birds. During the peak tarpon and snook seasons of fall and winter, lots of anglers head to Costa Rica. Isla de Pesca is one of the 4 fishing camps right in this region. Casamar is just around the bend of the river, and the Rio Colorado Lodge is located right in town and right next to the airstrip, and the Silver King Lodge is just upriver. A reminder that our second visit to Costa Rica came to an end all too soon, and once again we decided to forego a long ride and take a quick charter hop back to San Jose. We arrived back quickly enough to have an entire afternoon and evening to again sample the sights and delights of the capital city before heading back to Miami. One thing we all learned: whether you head for the west coast for billfish or east for snook and tarpon, or do both, fishing in Costa Rica is an adventure. And it can be made even more so if you can schedule some side trips to the jungles, rainforests, volcanoes, and wild rivers of this exotic land. It's all worth your time. As we said at the beginning, Costa Rica is easily reachable from both coasts of the United States on several airlines, including LAXA and American. Arrangements can be made through travel agents, and you can contact charter boat operators and fishing camps directly. We'll give you a couple of phone numbers in a moment. Welcome to Costa Rica. And as an old fishing buddy used to say, tight lines and good fishing.
This program was produced and licensed by International Video Projects Incorporated of Lakeland, Florida. For additional information about this program and other programs we offer, please write International Video Projects, 6700 South Florida Avenue, Suite 28, Lakeland, Florida, 33813-3312, or call toll-free 800-852-0662. Our collection of programs may also be reviewed on our website, www.videoprojects.tv. Thanks for watching.